spawn meets world, spawn meets world. When the spawn meets world.
What up, bros?
What up, bros?
And welcome to Bro Meets World.
When it's Bro Meets World.
Your boy meets world funcast. I am Ceej.
And I am Mr. Tony Coitus. How
Coitus.
the hell are you, Ceej?
Doing well. Alive. That's something.
Always.
Getting ready for Spooktember.
Oh
I
my
know
gosh.
it's one of your favorite times of year. And
Yeah.
glad to be back recording. Glad to be back.
100%. I want to let our listeners know that I did get married on October 1st. So I got married and I had a 2-week stint in Hawaii. So there's been a gap in episodes, as usual. There's been a gap between episodes, but I have a legit reason this time. So but I was in Hawaii and I just want to take a moment to tell a quick story. And I know you don't like it when we jump ahead in the seasons of Boy Meets World. Like, I don't want to give spoilers away. I just recently got married. I had a 2-week stint in Hawaii, and I have to talk about this just because it's directly tied to this podcast. Ceej really dislikes it when I jump ahead into the future of the timeline of Boy Meets World.
I think we have to this episode, if I'm being honest.
Honestly, we have to. But for those who stick with the whole series, you'll know that Cory and Topanga had a wedding and went to a honeymoon in Hawaii in season 7.
Life.
In this episode, they get to Hawaii and they're just like, we don't want to leave. Let's stay here. And that was literally us. Like, we planned a 1-week vacation, and then at the end of it, we were like, we can't leave yet. So let's just stay another week. And the entire second week was me trying to convince my new wife to drop everything and move to Hawaii. And then she kind of, reminded me
she
that
refused to do it.
We have a golden retriever and a bunch of stuff back at home. So we came home.
Right.
But the Boy Meets World episode, we watched it on vacation, and it helped me make the transition of just like, yeah, that's right. There's more waiting for me back home than here. So yeah, just again, Boy Meets World coming in.
We're glad to have brought you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, getting into it. Let's talk about this episode. Actually, let's back up a little bit. This is episode 103. We've been doing this for a while now.
For a hot minute.
Like for a little bit. And this episode, the moment I started, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed we don't have people on here. I was like, we have to figure out a way.
I'm the exact opposite, because I was actually thinking about that same thing. So many people requested to be a guest on this specific episode, but and you know what I'm talking about. Like, no disrespect to any of our guests, but sometimes they're not with us chronologically, in the show to get into the meat and potatoes. And me and you have been here since 101. So it's just good to know that we'll be able to kind of reference things as we go, that sometimes we're not able to when we're talking to a guest who isn't as familiar with the series.
Very, very good point. All right. So that being said, let's talk about season 5, episode 14. Before we do that, I believe someone owes me a tell me about it.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it. It's a Ski Lodge episode. Cory lies about a kiss, but Topanga found the note he missed.
Good for you. I just so everyone knows, I know for a fact that you wrote that on the fly. I know for a fact that you did not come into this prepared. So that's hilarious. Loving it. Okay. This is season 5, episode 14, Heartbreak Cory.
Pause for a second. I'm sorry. My Alexa's announcing something that I don't want to record. I'm gonna have to edit this out. I just want to pause you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We already got people.
I know it's on my calendar, Alexa. You can stop.
Hi, Tyler.
Got it.
Tyler Virden 19. I don't know how to say that. Anyway,
what up, Tyler? What up, Tyler? You get a shout out. On the pod.
We love a Tyler.
Absolutely.
We're all about a Tyler. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to the episode. All right. So this is season 5, episode 14, Heartbreak Cory.
Mm.
When Cory sprains his ankle falling off the bus during a senior class ski trip to the Mount Sun Lodge, he doesn't tell Topanga when he spends the night talking with the young lady, Lauren, who's volunteered to take care of him. And that is our episode. We have a roll call, which I think is really important to get into. And that would be Linda Cardellini as Lauren.
Take my breath away, Linda Cardellini. Like
the very own Velma.
She is so great how she is actually like a legitimate actress now. Like, has she not been nominated or won an Academy Award? Like, I feel like she is just like in that realm now, and it's just so fun to like to see her progression from just television sitcom star to, you know, being in like legitimately good movies.
I think she's always been like she is. I think that like the issue is, especially in the early aughts, no one took 90s actors or teenagers seriously, and they had to get older in order for anyone to appreciate them. Because, you know, this is my favorite time of year, Scream. When I look at what Matthew Lillard did with Scream, it's just like the idea that this kid wasn't in everything afterwards.
What's your
is
favorite
just like
performance?
It's so good. It's so good.
I love it. Stand out. I don't care.
But again, like think about like the work that he did in that episode or in that movie, and the fact that like it just doesn't transfer over to movie career. But yet we have like 9 Channing Tatum movies. Like, what's that about?
Yeah.
Like this is my point. I'm just saying. They never took them seriously.
For those who aren't super familiar with Linda Cardellini, I just want to point out that she's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's, I believe, in the Hawkeye or like married to Hawkeye or something.
That's
some shit like that. Yeah,
everyone has Marvel connections now. You got to be in a Marvel movie in order to like. I think Marvel has become the new SVU. It's like you know, like everyone did SVU.
Everyone's credits have it in there somewhere. But she also did a fantastic performance in Brokeback Mountain. She was in ER for a long time. She was also been in a bunch of more serious movies I have not seen. I know her best, honestly. When I saw this episode live, bro, I immediately thought, "Oh, that's that chick from Good Burger."
Really? Good Burger was, of course.
I hadn't seen Freaks and Geeks, so it was just like the only reference I had for her in the 90s at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was waiting for like we will probably get a lot of people being upset that my first connection to not first connection, but I refer to Linda Cardellini as Velma and not in her work as Freaks and Geeks. But I mean, I think it's good that you have a lot of work that people can pull from. That's absolutely the dream.
And she like kills it. She kills it, right? Like in this episode, like she makes it 3-dimensional in the way that they could have really just not. Gosh, we could.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to talk about it. Okay, so let's get into the episode. I have so many notes, but kind of like just to walk it through. Number one note I want to talk about, and we can. I'm going to start off with the fluff, but then we can get into the nitty gritty. What kind of school trip is this where everyone's going to a ski lodge, 0 chaperones? Like it's like everything about the ski lodge trip just felt weird. It's like, is this a weekend trip? Like the idea that Feeny is the only chaperone that we have there. I was just confused by the logistics of this senior class trip to go skiing. Like
100%.
Skiing, of course, because like the number of injuries, like Cory injures himself stepping off. It doesn't seem like something insurance would approve at all. That's my point.
100%. Like I've been on a ton of overnight school trips before, and not only do you need a certain amount of chaperones per student, like as part of law, but they're constantly like putting tapes on doors. Like they're constantly monitoring the hallways, trying to catch kids who are trying to fuck as strategically as Cory and Shawn are in this episode.
Absolutely. That's actually what's funny about that. Is it's probably because of all those kids trips that they're like, you know what, these kids can't be trusted. Tapes on doors, all the things that you said.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have memories of school trips where people have found creative ways. But the idea of a kid being out of their hotel. The idea of a kid literally not being in his hotel room all night long means that an adult fucked up along the way. That's not Cory's fault.
I mean, all right. So again, we'll get into it, but like I had wrote in my notes, I was like, she's on the clock. Does she get overtime for this night? Like
I wrote the same. I was like, how
out?
long is her work day? She started the day with them and is like putting out the fire at the end of it. She has an all day work day.
Okay. You know what? Like, there's just so much to get into. I want to and I don't want to spend too much time on the nitty gritty, but I just thought that was really funny. Like this school trip, which there's no way insurance would allow this without some serious waivers. Like the paperwork for that had to be crazy. Let's talk about Cory. How do you want to go about this? Because
we could kind of go timeline wise if you want. I mean, we're probably going to jump around a lot because we're really excited, but the episode starts with them at school. Shawn and Cory are like strategically trying to plan out how to get with these girls. The girls aren't interested, but you can tell that like Cory wants something to happen this weekend. Ooh, right, like from the get.
No, he does want something to happen this weekend, but I like the way that you set it up. It was like I think Cory was waiting for something to happen. I think that's part of Cory, like this anticipation of like something in life, something special is going to happen to me, and he's always trying to set it up. And then Lauren, I was going to say, falls into his lap, but he falls. And then
the thing that's really interesting to me is how, you know, Cory is wanting something specifically sexual to happen. And from the very get, Topanga's like talking to Angela, being like, that's never going to happen. Right. Yeah. So it's just like, it's almost interesting how like Cory like naturally gravitated to to who was DTF. And
that's what I was going to say. He was like, when Cory wanted to get it in, he didn't really care who.
No.
Like he thought it was supposed to be Topanga, but then this other girl was like, look, she may not, I will. What your girlfriend won't do, I'll do. So like he was like, and it's so much to talk about, but like I don't think we can get away from the fact that Cory got caught twice, and that means something. Like I think this idea of like Cory being a good guy and Cory seeing himself as a good guy is like one thing, but like he gets caught by Feeny wake up call. Does he move? Does he go to bed? No. Then Shawn, and it's just like, you're playing with fire, and I think that you were willing to be burned a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Cory absolutely deserves to everything he gets. The reason
we're getting feedback from the chat. They said he wants to meet these social milestones, good or bad, way before his time. Oh, that's so insightful.
Yeah, so on point, because his whole thing with Shawn is almost like, oh, we're going away without our parents for a weekend. Of course, something needs to happen. Like this is what happens when kids go away on vacation, right? Like this is what we are owed socially as that milestone, like that person was talking about. Who's that person who chimed in?
That is the real Booth guy.
You the real one. That's a great insight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so Cory to like try to reach these milestones, and like just I think he's, you know what, was like talk about Cory being a storyteller. I think he gets caught up in the story. I think Cory 100%. Really looks at these things as like, hey, I'm creating this, I'm thinking about what I'm going to tell people. And then he gets himself in these situations and he's like, oh.
It's funny because in a lot of ways, Cory and myself are very mirrored in the sense that I saw Cory have this life on television and then went through my real life trying to mirror that. In the same way, almost as if like Cory had grown up watching Wonder Years and was like, oh, okay, so this is going to happen here and this is supposed to happen here. And it feels like he has these like ideas from pop culture really that don't even derive from reality, in his reality, I should say.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting insight. I'm thinking about Cory right now, and I will say that Lauren was flirting like right off the bat, and that's not to say like that's weird. It's just like The moment he gets off the bus,
let's be real
like, yo,
about
what's
this.
your deal? Yeah.
Lauren, at every point, I was like, Lauren doesn't really know about Cory and Topanga. She doesn't really know how much they're together. She doesn't really know how Cory feels about it. And at a certain point, I was like, oh, Lauren don't give a fuck. Like, she want Cory, like she's in it. She's
I
like,
will say,
I will do what your girl won't.
To give her a little bit of credit, I'm thinking two things. One, in the beginning, she doesn't know. Like there comes a while where it's not clear that Cory's with Topanga, and then there's a moment where it's clear, and she's like, "Oh, I shouldn't be here. This is awkward." And then there comes a moment after that where she's like, "Yo, does Topanga know you here? Like, where's your girlfriend at? You don't seem to care. So if you don't seem to care, then I don't seem to care."
So I'm gonna go ahead and lean in for this kiss, and I'm gonna fucking slide into your DMs later. I'm gonna send you a note with my info so that we can keep hooking up.
Slide into your DMs later is like, this is the modern equivalent is definitely that. Like, you're so right. Like, the modern equivalent would just be like,
she slid in his DMs and Topanga saw the notification. That's all it was.
That's how you update that. I'm not gonna lie. So what's really interesting to me about Lauren is I also, like, when you put this in like real life terms, she works at a ski lodge. She probably has seen these high school kids come in and out all the time. And the idea that their high school sweethearts or whatever, she's like, this isn't real. This isn't gonna last. So, let's just have a little fun. That's what all the guys do when they're on trips. And she went after hers. And again, I think personally, I'm not saying that it's ideal, but I'm thinking Lauren, she's like a little bit more realistic.
Okay, so here's what I think about Lauren, and I give so much credit to Linda Cardellini as an actor, because she just makes Lauren this person that you're like, oh, I kind of like Lauren. Oh, yeah, if Topanga wasn't here, I would totally want Cory and Lauren to be together. In fact, I'm looking back, and here's why I'm glad we don't have a guest, so we can kind of time travel a little bit. I'm looking back at this season. I'm seeing the very Topanga Christmas where her and Cory aren't really seeing eye to eye. I'm seeing that Last Tango in Philly where, Cory's dealing with jealousy and Topanga and him are clearly wanting different things. And I'm also seeing a season where Topanga hasn't been as a romantic interest for Cory really since last season when he was trying to fuck Mary Beth at Eric's college store. And the last time they had any romantic storyline was Long Walk to Pittsburgh. These people are not that close, is all I'm saying. Their relationship isn't solid.
You know what? You brought up a really good thing. I feel like if this was a modern show, they would be like previously on, and then you get that little clip of Cory at the end of season 4 where he is trying to fuck Mary Beth. So you could be like, yo, this is not new. This is in Cory's nature. And I think what's so funny to me is every Boy Meets World fan that I know of remembers this episode because it's called the Lauren episode. So
Lauren episode.
And it's because Lauren's really cool. Like in the chat, they were like, do we need a Lauren spinoff? And I would love to like talk about that, because actually they should have spun this off for like just them inside the ski lodge and like the adventures and the number of affairs that happen in that ski lodge. I'm just saying I would watch.
Also too, like, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say,
yeah.
To wrap it up, the whole thing is to say that this is nothing new. Cory has this pattern. He and Topanga haven't been close lately. I think, as you said, like the very Topanga Christmas, they're in not a rut, but they're in like a pattern. Which is why I think I really connected to your idea of like Cory was waiting for something to happen. He didn't really care who. He just wanted something different.
Let's be real. Topanga was kind of annoying as fuck in the Christmas episode, right? Like, for her to have that been her last episode, and then this cool, sexy, chill, girl come in this episode. Were they prepping us for this with the
That's
Christmas
what I'm saying.
episode?
I kind of feel like they were like they could not have just presented this to us and like have us accept it. I think the idea that we did see Cory kind of toe that line in earlier episodes, and we have seen Topanga be kind of like less of the romanticized Topanga that we have. It kind of makes sense, especially story-wise. However, that being said, going back to the fact that this is called the Lauren episode, this episode was traumatic for a generation. Like this episode, you were like, love isn't real. No one can be faithful.
You know why though? Because Cory's a piece of shit. You know why Cory's a piece of shit? Because literally in that Christmas episode, which I think airing wise was like an episode or two before this, they ended by giving each other promise rings.
Yeah,
I said it when we were talking about it. They gave each other promise rings, and I'm like, 2 episodes later, he's cheating on Topanga at the ski lodge.
Like not only that, but that's what I think. I think, as you were saying, Cory's not a good guy, and I think I think this show would be better if it kind of leaned into the fact that we're not, like, don't get me wrong, we're not always supposed to be rooting for Cory, but he is the protagonist. He is the guy, and so it's just kind of set up with the fact, like, even like I looked at how they staged it and they were like, oh, she kissed him. It's like, no, like Cory is actively making these decisions to kind of like toe that line of like, I'm a good guy, I would never. Every now and then I'll make a mistake, I'm so sorry, or Shawn told me to lie, I didn't do it on my own. You know what I mean? It's like he's just always getting it out, when instead I think it's really important to be like, no, Cory isn't a good person, and that's who we're following. We're following a not good person as he learns to be a better person.
100%. And you know what, to your point, and just Cory's character, I was trying to find the actual episode. Forgive me, I can't really locate it, but yeah, A Kiss is More Than a Kiss, season 3, episode 14. Cory has already kissed another girl while with Topanga.
Which one is that? What happened?
This is the episode where Topanga's not feeling well, so he gets joined with another girl for a school project. She invites him over for a party, but him and Shawn are the only two there with her and her friend. They go into a closet. They kiss, whether she kisses him or whatever. And I do want to say this: Boy Meets World is very careful that the girl always kisses Cory. Cory didn't kiss her, exactly in that episode.
Not do that.
I forget what her name is, but yeah, he didn't kiss her in that episode. And the other thing was that in this episode, Lauren kisses him as well. Cory doesn't kiss Lauren. So they're very careful about that. I just want to point out that Cory has a history of doing stuff like this, of feeling like, I love Topanga, but at the same time, like, what's up?
Well, I think that it's something that I think you and I were talking about earlier about being millennials and like having this milestone, these tracks that you think you're supposed to hit. And Cory is really good at hitting them, but he's not happy. He's not satisfied. And that's because I don't think he's pursuing what he really wants. Cory just performs the good nature. And again, we're gonna have to shout out the Real Booth guy several times. He's given us amazing commentary in here. He's like, Cory hates always having to be the good guy. And I was like, in the episode when they're like, if you could name your partner or change your partner into any animal, he's like, nothing cute and fluffy. Like, and it's like, yeah, okay, he wants to be seen as this bad guy. And it's like,
he wants to be Shawn. He always wanted to be Shawn. What's the episode, The Grass is Greener, where they switch places at the party and he's Shawn for that party? He fucking loves it. Like, that's who he wants to be.
Well, I think what's funny about their relationship, Cory and Shawn, is Cory is Shawn internally, but Shawn has the external expectations of it. So like Shawn has the look of a bad boy, and so because Shawn has the look of a bad boy, he is the bad boy. You know, he has the background, he has like it all makes sense for Shawn to be that guy, when in fact Shawn's more like what people assume Cory is. Like, and that's why I think their friendship works, is because Shawn, even though he has this bad guy exterior, Shawn is the first one to be like, you lied to Topanga. Like he's like, yo, what are you doing? You're fucking it up. Like, immediately.
Two things about that. Two things. The first thing is that Cory kind of reminds me of like those people who are like, oh, nothing ever bad's really happened to me in my life, so I want to go out and like hunt tigers or something just for the thrill of it. Like I think he hates how vanilla his life is. Like that whole poster of him next to celery, that's his whole like battle. Is not being celery. Absolutely. And so like the opportunity to not be celery presented itself and he just could not say no to it. The other thing quickly about Shawn is that Shawn's kind of all over the place in this episode because at one point he's mad at Cory for lying to Topanga about his ankle, but at the almost in the next scene is like, oh, you should totally lie about kissing her. Like you should totally lie about that.
Well,
like,
to be fair, because remember, Shawn has a history with infidelity. His parents, he's like, I'm gonna tell you right now, you can lie about your ankle, but don't go tell her you kissed another girl. I've seen people get shot for less. So like, that's what
Cory has already told Topanga he's kissed another girl, and that I'm sorry to keep going back to it, but this has happened before. This guy has a history of this shit.
And that's my point. My point is, Cory has the history of being the bad guy, but he doesn't look like the bad guy. And that's what gets him out of being the bad guy very, very often, is that he could just be like, look at like me, Cory? No, I would never.
Let me ask you this. At what point in the episode does Cory cross the line?
So when he specifically crosses the line is when he stays out all night. Like, because up until then, it's like an innocent flirtation. What I like, again, Lauren joins the party and all of a sudden, I was like, he's literally between a rock and a hard place. And I was like, oh, because he's probably hard. But like, he's just like in between Topanga and Lauren.
Maybe he's sitting too close to the fire.
Exactly. Like, and again, that's such a weird thing to say, but like,
oh my God.
He's like sitting between Topanga and Lauren. And okay, this is where I have to go. Lauren, she found that question. I was like, that question was not next in the book. She looked for that question.
Flipping through for an infidelity
Would you cheat?
question.
Yes or no? I was like, what kind of book is this?
She wanted to know if she could get in it. And guess what? Cory didn't really answer the question at all. He just laughed it off. He said, I'm a falcon. Falcons are monogamous. Why would you even ask me that? It's so political, that answer.
Exactly. But again, it was very much, she was like, again, I'm not saying anybody's cheating. I'm just saying, if given the opportunity to cheat, how would you behave? Again, that was Lauren's way of being like, yo, I'm putting it out there.
Like, if you want it on the low, could you be cool about it? Or was it like,
do you know how to keep a secret?
Wow. No, that was my answer to that question as well, is that like, once everyone goes to bed and Cory's like, oh, I want to stay up, and the only person who stays up is Lauren, that's it, right?
Again, I was like, at some point in time, she had to clock out. Like, no manager is being like, yo, where Lauren at? She hasn't checked anyone in forever or whatever, and then just letting her be. She, at some point in time, she had to clock out, or she didn't clock out, got overtime. Good on you, girl. Respect the hustle.
100%.
Either way, it's just like, there was a moment
dick in the dollar.
There's a moment where they both had to ignore responsibilities, and Lauren makes sense that she would do so, but there just comes a time, even when you're with a friend who's like say you go visit a friend at work and they're just hanging out with you, at some point in time you say, don't you have to get back to work? You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this question. All right, now I really want to get into this. Okay, all right. Is it Lauren's responsibility at all to respect Cory and Topanga's relationship?
So so now we're talking about fidelity, and I am someone who, I'm trying to like figure out how to say this respectful of my relationship, but I'm someone who, me and my boyfriend have we have an understanding, and there are things that have to be done. So on and so forth. But I've also practiced being part of someone's open marriage and stuff like that. And the reality of the situation is, for your own safety, for your own health, you should be like, I don't want to do anything that everyone isn't all up on. Like, you know, it's like you are playing with fire. It's not her responsibility, but it is something where it's like for her own health, it is wise to do. I don't know if you've watched the latest episode or the latest season of You on Netflix.
Have not.
But in You on Netflix, without giving really much of a spoiler away, there's this like opportunity for it's kind of like a swingers party or something that's going on.
Ooh.
And when it's proposed to the couple, they just like one couple disagrees on like what's allowed, and immediately the other couple is like, nope, you guys need to have a conversation, we'll talk to you later. And it's like, yeah, no, that's what you should be doing. You should be like, nope, this is like, if you aren't all up on board and aware of what you're going to be doing, I don't want any part of it, because that's how you get guys who like become stalkers. Like, as you said, when we said earlier, it's like, can you keep a secret? Do you know what you're doing? You need to know a little bit more about that person, because if they're willing to like throw everything away, like their relationship away for you, chances are they're willing to do some other crazy shit.
Okay. All right. Let's dive a little deeper now.
Yes.
Question for you.
Yes.
And I even wrote this one out because I was so curious, you know, because obviously there's no future in Lauren. She lives far away. I mean, these kids are almost 18 and they're about to go off to college, but there isn't really like a long-term future with Lauren, maybe. You know, obviously Cory exploring other options isn't a terrible thing. Like, in and of itself, it is not a terrible thing. The way he goes about it is terrible.
Yes.
I'm going to push all that aside. Have you ever been truly tempted by someone else while in a relationship that you were not having any issues in?
That I was not having any issues in? like
yes.
That's the thing. It's just like, were you not having, you know what? I'll say, again, this is telling like a little bit much of me, but it's like, I don't, like, currently I put myself in a position to where any relationship I'm in, I have the freedom to be like, I think that person's attractive. I don't necessarily do anything, but it's like, oh, I was kind of flirting with this person. It was kind of like, I want the freedom to be honest with my partner. So that's me. And I put myself in positions to where that's the case. Now, I will say I'll say it this way. I have made similar mistakes that Cory made in my past. I mean that in several ways, but like, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I have to say this too, because I was trying to think about it, and not in my current relationship, but in previous relationships, I've definitely had instances where like I've been deeply tempted, but it was only when there was really not a solid ground in that relationship to begin with. Like, there were issues, there were things that were going on. And that's kind of my point in sensing that like there is cracks in Cory and Topanga's relationship. There has to be, for him to truly consider everything he's doing to get with Lauren.
What I think is more important is there are problems with Cory. Like, the relationship, don't get me wrong, because Cory's part of the relationship, clearly there is, but it's like Topanga is like, yo, she's checking in on boy, she's having fun. Like, she comes back, tells him about her day. And I just think that there is usually a point in a relationship where like one person isn't communicating their needs. Because they're not communicating their needs, there is a problem in the relationship, but the other person doesn't know about that, so they can't address it. So it's kind of like, am I making sense?
No, of course. We saw that in the Christmas episode where Cory was constantly passive aggressive towards Topanga about things that he wasn't communicating to Topanga. I mean, this is and that when I say that there's issues in a relationship, I don't mean that there's like fighting. I mean, because fighting would insist on, hey, I need this, and another person being like, I need this, and like disagreeing about how to get it. They're not even at that level, because Cory isn't expressing any needs that he has. And the only examples we have, I'm sorry, are this Christmas episode, because Cory and Topanga have not been the focus. This whole season has been about Jack and Eric and their thing, the college, like all of that stuff. Like, we time traveled, and we haven't had like a romantic Cory and Topanga moment. So what does that mean for this relationship? I'm just trying to.
And what I'm trying to come back to, first of all, really quickly, we have a lot of new people joining the chat. Thank you guys. Feel free to comment. I'll read them and we'll shout you out. But what I'm trying to get at is, I think it's really important very often, especially when someone cheats, especially when a guy cheats, people like blame the female and they're like, what did she do? Or women blame themselves. What was I not doing? And it's like, from what I can see, don't get me wrong, Topanga is not a flawless character. I think that's one of the things that we like and want to see more of, the complex Topanga. But in this episode specifically, Topanga is doing nothing wrong. In fact, there's a moment on the couch where she's even like, hey, you know, I could be interested in us making out and having some one-on-one time. Topanga is not the problem. The relationship has a problem, but it's not because Topanga's not pulling her own weight. It's because Cory's not communicating and he's not being honest with himself. And that's what I just think is important, because again, when we talk about infidelity specifically, there's this idea that, oh, if there was problems in the relationship, well, that's why he's cheated. It's like sometimes it's a problem with the individual and that's why he cheated.
Can I ask you this? Do you think this is all happening because Topanga's a virgin and insisting upon virginity? Because literally when Cory was like, yo, me and Eric are going to the beach, you should come, she's like, I'm not really ready for that. And then he found himself in another situation where a woman was DTF. So like, I guess I'm saying that like throughout the series, we see multiple examples of Cory being low-key frustrated with Topanga's insistence upon virginity and purity. And I'm wondering if that is playing a part in his ability to kind of like just like blur morals for something that he wants.
Well, I think if that is, it has nothing to do with Topanga and everything to do with Cory.
Oh, 100%.
You know, it has everything to do. It has nothing to do with the fact that Topanga is a virgin. It has everything to do with the fact that Cory isn't willing to communicate his needs. Because I feel like if he just tells something I want to have sex, he's like, oh, I'm overreaching, I don't want to do that. But then also he's not willing to relieve the relationship because, as was pointed out earlier, Cory likes to think of himself as a good guy, but he doesn't like to be the good guy. So he has to hit that milestone of having a high school girlfriend. He worked so hard for this, he's not going to give it up. But in reality, is he satisfied? No. And that's just something that I'll work around.
Yeah.
I can tell the line. I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, like no hate on Topanga for insisting upon the virginity. I just think that there's a low-key resentment that's building with Cory for it. And then like obviously, like if you keep watching the show, like when they finally have sex, like he is in cloud nine, but he's at a point where when they finally do it, he's so like aggressive, like finally I get this thing that I'm owed, that it just kind of like it doesn't seem sexy or romantic at all when it finally happens because of this, like, I'm owed this thing. And he's kind of treated his entire relationship with Topanga that way.
Yeah. All right. So I'm really excited. So we've kind of done the night before, or sorry, the all night talking session. And don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There is a moment in time where it's like you connect with someone and you're like, oh, this is like, I could do this forever. And sometimes, you know, it's like that spark, it's a little flirtation. So I get it. I feel like that's very relatable. But again, the moment Feeney was like, oh, what are you doing up? Like, it's just like a moment of being like, that was your opportunity to be like, I should probably go to bed. It's morning time. I should, like, you know, like, you got caught. The worst thing you could do is get caught in the moment of it. But I think it's one of those things where when you don't see yourself as capable of making these mistakes, it's very easy for you to inch closer and closer. Because again, he was just like, no, it's fine. We hung out all night. Nothing happened. And that's
I also thought it was really interesting how when we we see them, like it's morning now and Feeney's about to walk in. Cory's telling the story about how he went skydiving with his brother and his dad. Like, it's interesting how he was able to talk all night and not bring up his girlfriend.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know what I mean?
But again, there's that moment where I'm sorry, I'm telling on myself. There's always that moment where you're like, I should have brought up so-and-so by now. Like, how do you tell a story and not bring up this person at this point in time? But, you know, you're just like, someone told me that I should get a Christmas tree from the woods. You know, like, I'm not going to say who it was. I'm just going to say.
And that all of that is like active decisions to exclude your relationship from this person you're low-key trying to get with. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Feeney finds them. He's still like, whatever. Shawn is like all night Oh, Knight, you need to read the Bible.
Shawn tried to tell him. Sorry, someone was like, "Where y'all been? We've been working on stuff." Not the podcast, apparently, but we're getting back into it. And hopefully,
got married, guys. I got married.
He got married. He did get married. That was part of it. Sorry, I have it. Now there's a time where Cory hops up and Lauren's like, "Oh, you're healed. I guess you'll be going skiing tomorrow." So again, there's like this whole point. I think as much as you want to say it, Lauren gives Cory outs all the time. She's like, "Yo, I'm not saying anything other than you don't have an excuse anymore to still be talking to me. Like we had our day."
Cory's even like, "Hey, I don't want to have feelings for another girl." And Lauren's like, "Hey, I respect that." Like she makes a little joke about it, but she every step of the way, every time Cory kind of puts his boundaries down, Lauren respectfully kind of backs away, but Cory lays a boundary and inches towards her every time.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point, because she's very much like there's no reason for you to be here. What I really love is like he just comes up to Lauren out of nowhere and he's like, "I don't want to what did you say earlier?
I don't want to have feelings for another girl."
Yeah, like he accuses her, like, "I don't want to have feelings." Like, what did I do? I'm just living my life, doing my 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, apparently. And he blames her. And it's that blaming of her. Again, that's like zero accountability. Cory doesn't see himself as capable of this because the good boy idea he has of himself doesn't allow for that. So it's
he doesn't even admit to himself that he likes another girl. He just says, like, "I don't want to have feelings for another girl." Not saying he doesn't say, "I have feelings for you and it makes me uncomfortable," is what he's trying to say. But he can't even get to that point.
A better thing to say is, "Hey, I'm not really sure what happened last night. I appreciate the time you spent. For the sake of my relationship, I think it's best that we, like leave it at that." Like, but again, like that would require putting your relationship first and making it very clear there's no future. And instead, he was like, "I don't want to be doing this, but Topanga's making me be a good guy, so I guess I will."
It's like, it's really a shame because I really wish the show had presented Cory opportunities to explore other serious relationships. Like I know I keep referencing Wonder Years, but if you watch Wonder Years, like he's not just with Winnie Cooper the other time, like he has other girlfriends to kind of filter in and out. And like I just think that's a far healthier way to kind of decide on a life partner versus this, "Well, I told you at the age of 7 that I was going to marry you, so this is the commitment I'm in, and I'm going to be low-key resentful about that." Like it doesn't feel romantic.
Okay, so completely agree. Someone in the chat just brought up something really great, and I think it segues perfectly. So we're at the part where Cory just said, "I don't want to have feelings for another girl," and Lauren's like, "I want to respect that." But then later on, again, that's the point where it's like, "Hey, Cory, are you going to go skiing?" And he's like, It's like there's that moment where she's like, "Well, like if you feel even a little bit, you shouldn't go." And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm not going." It's like, again, that was a choice. You specifically made a choice to stay. But
I wish I would have counted every time someone gave him an out and he just kept going forward. Like I wish I would have kept track.
So a few things. One, Shawn's face when he makes that decision. Shawn's like, "Dude, think about the music cues." You were like the music cue was like, and like it was that music cue of like, y'all gonna see what happens next. But all of this is to say the kiss happens shortly after, and Lauren does lean in for the kiss. However, when Shawn finds out, Shawn's like, "Oh my God, don't tell her, like, tell her that you stayed up all night. Tell her that you lied about going skiing. Don't tell her about the kiss." And my first reaction was like, I feel like the kiss is the least important part right now, because you stayed up all night to talk to another girl. Like as someone wrote, something did happen. Like you could say nothing happened, but you made an emotional connection. And that's just that.
It's not the emotional connection that's even the problem. It's he lied to his partner so he could continue pursuing that emotional connection.
Yes, you're right. It's not the fact that you made the connection, it's that you made the connection and then actively pursued it. And then it led to something that was physical. So the physical is just the result of you actively pursuing the emotional connection. And that's the trouble. Like, to me, like when he was like, she will never forgive you for kissing, I was like, this paints a bad picture. It says that, oh, you can have an emotional affair. Girls will be fine with that. But don't, like, if anything actually physically happens, that's when you're in trouble. It's like, no, you were in trouble in the beginning. You were in trouble way before the kiss.
Like, and again, you're so right. Like, the kiss is such like a small part of it. You can kiss someone's grandma and not think twice of it. But like, to be like, hey, I'm gonna lie to you so I can spend time with someone else. I'm gonna be quietly thinking about someone else while we're together. Like, that's the real hurtful shit. And gosh, man. Okay, all right. So this all happens, and they're packing up and they're leaving, and Lauren's like, yo, I meant what I said. I like you. I don't find people I like all the time.
Wait.
Oh yeah,
the only because we're skipping over the fact that Cory does go to Topanga and then tells her.
Oh, that's right.
About all that. And this is why this is important for two reasons. One, he goes, and I would like it when I was watching the chat. Watching live, people in the chat were like, yo, he tells Topanga, hey, I stood up all night. I made a connection with this other girl. I shouldn't have done that. Like, he talks about like the emotional infidelity, but he leaves out the kiss. And someone was like, that omission, again, it's like, that's just as bad as lying.
It's a choice.
Just as bad. But then, like, to me, I'm like, you omit it, but like, that's something that it's like, you know what you're saying is the past is the past. And he's like, I promise never to lie to you moving forward. So again, that's it's a cop out, but it's like, the past is the past. Sure. I did a bad thing. I got too far. I'm going to be a new person moving forward.
He says like, I wouldn't treat this person. That's not the way to treat the person I love more than anything, or something to that effect. Like saying like, hey, I love you. You have nothing to worry about.
Exactly. But also, again, I'm being honest with myself. When you do stuff like that, what you're saying is, I'm going to be a different person moving forward.
Yeah.
And he goes, I promise never to lie to you. Then Topanga goes, so nothing else happened. And I was like, oh, because now, like, I haven't seen this in forever. I was like, okay, now you have to tell her about the kiss. And instead, Cory goes, no, nothing. And I was like, oh, see, like, now you're wrong. Because like, it was one thing when you omitted it. It was another thing when she asked you directly. Yeah. She asked you directly, did anything else happen between you and this other person? And you looked her in her eyes and said no.
Yeah. There's no getting around it. There's really no getting around it. I have to say, not to just move on. I definitely want to come back, but just, I'm so excited for the future because there's an episode where Lauren actually does come to Philadelphia and spends time with Cory.
Why would you tell me that? You're ruining things for me.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying that like she's such a great character that like the show was like, we have to bring her back. And I love the like bomb that her character literally sets off. Like, it changes this season. Like, this season wouldn't be the season. We wouldn't have the and then there was Shawn episode if there wasn't for the Lauren episode. Like, this season was so kind of boring about like Eric and Shawn and his brother like getting to know each other. Like, I was just getting bored with it. It was just the same thing over and over again. But this bomb happens, and now it's like, oh, the foundation of this show, Cory and Topanga, is now in jeopardy, and now I'm hooked.
Well, so what's funny is, going back to what we talked about earlier, Cory has always been this person. They constantly show us Cory toes that line, but very similar. I think what's different about the Lauren episode, which again, I think the fact that it's called the Lauren episode proves how important this character was to the timeline of Boy Meets World. But the thing about the Lauren episode is very much like staying up all night, and having the emotional affair that Cory has had. It's all excusable in a way because it's like, oh, it's Cory being Cory. But in this episode, it took all of Cory's Coryness, his purposeful bad decision making, the fact that he's not actually a good guy, the fact that he lies regularly to Topanga, that he has cheated on Topanga numerous times, and the fact that he just needs something more. It brought all of that history of that character into one episode, and you watch him. So it's not like all these things spread out, which we've seen over the seasons, and you can kind of be like, oh, he's learning how to be a good person. It's Cory actively making the decision to cheat, to lie, and then to basically deal with the consequences afterwards. And I think that's what makes this.
You're 100% right, because I feel like if this show was like redone or modernized, we would have seen that Cory had this side of him a little bit more deliberately, that he had this like I don't want to be a good guy thing, that he had this like I want more out of my relationship than I'm getting back in return, that I'm living a life that I think I should be living because it's what everyone tells me I should be living. And everyone's like looking at me like, oh, isn't your life so great? I wish I had your life. And he's not really feeling it. Like, I feel like there would just be a darker part to Cory that we would get to explore if this were like maybe a drama or something. And you know how they're doing with Fresh Prince, how they're like turning it into a dramatic series. Like I just feel like there would be so much more there, but we have to pull from these bits and pieces of episodes over time to see that this is completely in line with Cory's character. And I hope that like if you're listening to this, if you're watching the live or listening to the podcast or whatever, like go back and watch some of these episodes, because there's breadcrumbs that lead to Lauren. Like everything leads to Lauren. Yeah,
they are breadcrumbs, and I think that that's pretty clear. So speaking of leading to Lauren, they're about to leave. It's the last day. And Cory's like, hey, Lauren, let's just kind of leave that where it was. And she's like, I'm not going to lie to you. I like you. I want to see where this goes. I don't meet a lot of curly haired boys in the ski lodge, apparently. But yeah, she's decided that, you know what? Hey, I still like you. I still think about that moment. I'm going to write you a letter. And I was like, yo, again, I'm not promoting cheating. No paper trails. You give that letter immediately back.
Yeah.
I'm going to read it right here in front of you, throw it away. I am not taking that letter, because taking that letter is 100% guaranteed way to get caught.
Ditch your receipts. Ditch your receipts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I know that in a future episode we get into what the letter says, but I kind of like that there's kind of this mysterious, we don't know what it says. She gives it to Cory and he just kind of puts it in his bag, and you kind of wonder, like, is he going to read it later? What's his interest in this letter? Does he have any interest in Lauren going forward? Or is he really like saying like, no, it was just one night, I fucked up, I want to move forward? Like, I'm not really sure where Cory is.
No. You do know where Cory is. Cory took the letter. If you have zero interest, you don't take the letter.
I guess you're right.
If you respect your partner, you don't take the letter. You're like, yo,
well, if you respect your partner, you don't kiss another person. You don't lie about
all very true. But what I'm saying is, in general, the fact that he took the letter, like she put it in his bag. Again, like they do all these things where it's like, well, she put it in the bag. No, that's trash. Like you just immediately like that's what happens when you are A, not interested, B, at the very least trying not to get caught. Like at the very least, make an effort not to get caught. And as you said, this is one of those things where it's like in modern times, there would be like a notification from Laura that just pops up on the phone being like, I had really fun last night. And Topanga's like, what is this? But
yes. It would have been Cory and Shawn together, like, oh, let's get one last picture. Topanga, will you take it for us? She takes his phone. Then the notification from Lauren, I can't stop thinking about last night, pops up. And then it's just like, whoa. Yo, what was that bus ride like on the way back? Because what happens is that... Yes, Cory gets the letter. He puts it in his bag. He drops his bag. The letter spills out. He does not see it. Topanga finds it, sees that it's from Lauren. And there's just this zoom out, fade to black where she's like, what does this mean? But she still has to ride on a bus with this kid the entire way back to Philly. So what was that like? I mean, we'll never know. But geez.
Again, what's interesting is that bus ride back And I like that what we've done is we've changed the perspective from Cory and Lauren to Topanga.
Yeah.
And because there is a third person in this situation, and that is Topanga. And the fact that Topanga is lied to, she is forgiving, which again, Topanga being Topanga, the perfect girlfriend from a male point of view. She's like, I understand it wasn't ideal, but just don't do it again type situation.
Mm-hmm.
To see that he has the letter, and I would love for our female listeners to give us some insight. The mere fact that he has the letter would probably you don't even need to read it. It's like you told me about this other girl. You told me that it was you stayed up all night. Why is she writing you letters? Why do you have the letter? Were you gonna tell me about the letter? All this stuff. And she's just sitting on the bus the entire time. And I guarantee you, Cory and Shawn are making jokes. Angela's watching them, giving her the girl, we were some crazy folks. And Topanga's just sitting there the entire time, and this is eating her up inside. Because
to that same point, I want to say that this is probably almost exactly 1 year after Topanga said, I'm not going to live with my parents because I want to be close to Cory. This is almost exactly 1 year after she made this dramatic long walk to Pittsburgh. I'm so in love with you. You're so in love with me. We're star-crossed lovers. I'll give everything up to be close to you. And now you're doing this shit. There's a lot. There's a lot there.
Yeah. But what's funny about that is, to me, I don't know what the next episode is. I don't know the future. I haven't watched these episodes in a while. But I feel I don't know. I feel whether it's sitcom or reality, I can't really decide. But the proper thing is you immediately read it and you immediately be like, what is this? Can you explain? And I feel what they're gonna do is have Topanga sit on it for a little bit and bring it back out. But I don't know. But again, I think the reaction is
just sit and wait. Just sit and wait, because I promise you, you will not be disappointed in next week's episode with the confrontation, because not only does it come with the confrontation, it comes with a bunch of special guests in that episode from past years.
I don't want to know. Someone said, okay, reading the chat, they said, she thought about the letter and made it become an even bigger deal in her head. And then, that's what I'm saying. It's the psychological aspect of this for Topanga to be you just told me yesterday that you would no longer lie. You just told me we just went through this, and this isn't the first time that I've caught you doing this kind of shit. Yeah. So the kind of thing that's going, and then hold on, it's automatically this is more than what you said it was. What else are you lying about? Yep, that's my point. What else are you lying about? Can I trust you at all now? And the answer is no.
It's not even Topanga's fault for letting it build into something else in their head, because who wouldn't let something like that? If your partner just told you everything is on the up and up, and then you immediately saw something that said it wasn't, how could you trust? And the show does a great job of getting into it, guys. I have to say, we really.
Give me 1 second. I need to get my charger. 1 second.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. I'm gonna pause. I can't deal with having all eyes on me right now. I'm gonna go quickly run to the bathroom because I've been holding it so bad this whole episode.
Okay, while we're doing that, I will talk to the people in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us during this. It's great to get your feedback while we're doing this live. 1 second. Damn. Let's see.
Read questions from the chat, Ceej.
What'd you say?
Read questions from the chat.
Okay, I'll just read some of the chat. You know what? I'll give some shout outs because we've gotten a few. Let's see. Tropical Girl 1998. Thank you for your input. Silveritz, thank you. Again, a lot of really good discussion. Chris Moon, just shouting you guys out. Richie Boy. Some really good chats. Thank you guys for joining. Again, if you guys have questions or if you have inputs that you want to say on this episode, just let me know. You don't trust and question everything you see him do and says. You don't trust and question? Oh, I'm assuming that's like you don't trust, and now moving forward, you just question everything he does. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like the moment, ooh, and so I hope we get into this, and I think we kind of can, especially next week's episode. The moment trust is gone, like that's like relationship over. Like if I can't trust you, at least for me, if I can't trust you, then like there's no reason to be here anymore. Because you will literally go insane. Like they'll be like, I'm going to the bathroom. You're like, are you going to the bathroom? Or is Lauren going to meet you there? You know?
Yeah. And like, okay, so, and I'm really interested to hear what people say, either in the live chat or just in comments for the post or whatever, because I really feel like this is a tale from three different perspectives. You have Lauren's side, you have Cory's side, and you have Topanga's side. And I know that Cory is doing everything wrong, and I know Topanga hasn't done anything wrong, but I'm trying to wonder what Lauren's role is in this. Like if someone says I'm in a relationship, if they're saying they're not trying to pursue it, and then they continuously relentlessly pursue it, at what point is that?
Again, I think from a personal health side, it's not good, and it shows like your own toxic behaviors that you would pursue something where someone's willingly lying to their partner. However, I'm not saying that it's good. I'm also saying you actually don't have any fault. This is not your relationship. You're not like, they're not married. You're not breaking anything up. Like you are pursuing someone who you have a connection with. And if that person is it is that person's responsibility to think about their relationship, not yours. Why are you giving their relationship more thought than they are? That's all I'm saying.
Very true. It's very true. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I mean, I think that's all I got for this episode. I don't think I could talk anymore without jumping ahead in the future. Any other thoughts on the Lauren episode?
Okay, so I have a few more things that I just thought were really funny that I wanted to break up. One is I'm loving the flannel in this episode. It's very ski lodge, very 90s. I was like here for it.
I thought Cory looked very adult this episode. Like they made him look older.
That's what I said.
A way.
I said they look older. They look older in this episode. Sean's hair is giving me what it needed to give. We see the girls wearing Uggs, which I thought was like a really like nice thing. And then so talking back to the ski lodge itself, there are a few things. One, does no one else work at the ski lodge?
No.
Two, the moment Topanga goes to bed, everyone just disappears, and I'm like, so like. Was everyone just like, yo, Topanga left? So, or again, we talk about this very often. We're seeing the story from Cory's perspective. So 100%. Is it that once Topanga left, no one else mattered? Like the room cleared out. It's just me, you.
It's just Tony and Maria at the dance, and no one else is there.
Exactly. Third, is there's a skylight in this ski lodge? Like again, this ski lodge is crazy.
Skylight's covered with snow, most likely, but no, it's fine. You can also stare at the stars, I guess.
Absolutely. And again, I think for me, one of my biggest takeaways is never leave a paper trail. Never leave a paper trail.
All right. So yeah. Do we have a bruh episode for this moment? For this episode?
A bruh moment for this episode?
Yes, that. A bruh moment.
A bruh moment for this episode. Honestly, like I don't really see anything wrong with this episode. I think this episode does a lot right in terms of like, even in the beginning, there was like a little thing where like they were. Oh, I know. I have a bruh moment.
I bet you it's mine too.
There's one moment where Sean's like, "No, the girls want us. Yes. They want to.
Yes. That's the one I did
hook up with us. They just needed an excuse." And I was like, "Oh!"
Sean actively stops Cory from asking for consent. Is it basically was my bruh moment. Oh my gosh.
That was the one moment I was like, you guys do everything pretty well, but that moment I was like, yeah, they want it. They want it so bad. They just need an excuse. And what's funny is later on, that's what Cory does.
He wanted it. He just needed an excuse.
Okay. Do you have Feeny lessons for this episode?
Feeny lesson. Fool. I would say that my Feeny lesson isn't something that was directly shown in this episode, but something I just know from personal experience. And I'm sure a lot of people who are older and have made mistakes know that you have to pull out of a situation before it goes too far. You have to have like a feeling of just like, hey, I sense that this could go in a way that I'm not going to have control over, or I'm going to like make decisions I'm not going to be proud of, whatever it is. And you have to kind of like stop it from happening before it happens. And like the longer you wait, the harder it is to stop it. And just that's what's Cory. He never stopped it. He just kept on leaning in, and it just led to this.
That's what I was going to say. My Feeny lesson, again, number one, no paper trails. Number two is like the moment you see yourself going down that road, it's your responsibility to catch yourself and remove yourself from the situation. I think it's funny that Feeny called Cory out, Shawn called Cory out, Topanga was like, what are you doing today? There was numerous like even Lauren was like, why did you lie to your girlfriend? Like, she's like, what are you doing here? There's constant moments where people are like, why
everyone
are you
knew
here?
But Angela, because they knew that Angela wouldn't play that shit.
Angela was not gonna keep this a secret. Angela, like, had Angela seen anything, she's waking Topanga up. Girl, go get your man.
100%. Oh man.
Okay.
But yeah, so
what grade are you giving this?
Great. This is an A+ episode. This is an A+ episode. If for no reason, then this is like the Infinity War of Boy Meets World. Like, there's before and after this, and you know, I just feel like this is such a pivotal part, and not just the season, but the whole storyline of the series. I can only think of a few episodes that I can just like say one thing about, and everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then there was Shawn, which is an episode we're going to be discussing like later this season. And this one are like the two main ones. And I feel like that's what makes this season stand out so much, is because this introduces a whole slew of episodes that are just so much more rewarding to watch than the ones we've been given, where like they go back in time for whatever reason, or there's witches now, whatever bullshit we've been getting from season 5, they move away from that, and they kind of have more in-depth storylines. In fact, even and then there was Shawn's storyline. What's so great about that is, yes, it's full of gags and pop culture references, but it plays into the emotional relevance of what's happening in the series, which is this Cory and Topanga relationship that's kind of on the rocks. So I'm just really looking forward to jumping forward, and A+ for this episode for setting up the rest of the season.
Absolutely. I think that it's really like, I'm gonna give this episode just an A, not an A+, because I feel like there is some fat that be trimmed. There are some things that don't make sense, but this is absolutely a minimum, because we use everyone right. We don't get any side characters. We don't get any Eric and Jack storylines. Like we are focusing where we need to focus. But then also, this is when you say that this is one of the pivotal episodes, as I said earlier in our recording, this episode gave our generation PTSD. Like people grew up talking about, like, as someone in the chat pointed out, Samuel L. Jackson knows this episode. Yeah. Like this episode. This episode is so pivotal. And what's really funny is and then there was Shawn episode, which we haven't gotten to yet, but it shows how that decision affects Shawn. Like it's like this episode is so important. Like, other people are having nightmares about the infidelity and the mistrust that Cory showed. And I think that's very powerful. It's powerful.
One thing I remember about watching this episode, I believe this episode aired either in the first or second season of Dawson's Creek, just to let you know where we were pop culture wise. Okay. And so as a kid watching this, I was like, oh, at this point, Cory and Topanga are about the same age as Dawson and Joey are supposed to be. And they're dealing with much more mature storylines, and they're dealing with more, this is what's going on in the pop culture zeitgeist, right? So here comes middle of season 5, this like sexual, like 3-way, like who's gonna choose who thing happens. And it's very Dawson's Creek, it feels like to me. Like they're really like trying to move the show forward to more developed adult storylines, and it just feels like every season that they get to, they make that push, and this just really feels like they're sticking with their age. We're not doing episodes about baseball cards anymore. We're not doing this, and if you watch Full House, you can see like a lot of times like there's very similar tone throughout the first all the way to the end of the series, because they're constantly dealing with little kids. But this show does such a great job of aging along with the characters, and this episode in particular does a fantastic job of that.
What I love about that is, so what you're saying is the writers were like, so you know how you start cheating on your girlfriend when you're 16, right? No, we all can relate to.
It's in the same sense that like Jonathan Turner was brought in when Friends was popular, and they like wanted to have like 20 somethings who were sexy and adult and have their own storyline. It feels like they're trying to like move the show into where pop culture is kind of headed to.
So I didn't want to really go there because you know how I am, but it's October, so I've been binging my Scream like podcasts and behind the scenes and all this other stuff. And as we know, right before this, Scream has premiered, and it shifted how we talked about teenagers. I'm sure like we should look it up, see when Freaks and Geeks and all that other stuff came out. But again, we're in this time in the 90s where we're starting to look at teenagers differently and really talk about what they're going through in a way that like I'll say studios realize how much profit they can make off of giving teenagers in-depth character. So
yeah, because even if you think about Beverly Hills 90210, Fox's responses to that was, oh, let's do Melrose Place, let's age them, let's not like develop children more, and let's like they stayed with 90210 all the way until they were adults. Like it wasn't until like Kevin Williamson and Scream and Dawson's Creek where they were like, no, this is like this John Hughes era is it, we just have to add more meat to the bones, and they do a really good job of it. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so that's our synopsis of this episode. I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed like doing the live, having this conversation with you, getting back into recording. A lot of really great questions. Some we'll probably write down and then ask next recording. I guess it's time for homework. What do you got for us? What's your homework?
I'm sure I'm really late with this. But I've been watching Ted Lasso and I love it. I don't know if you've seen it. I know it won a bunch of awards, and I know people have been watching it. It's already on season 2. I hadn't seen it, and so many people recommended it to me that I was like, oh, I'm going on my honeymoon. It's a 5-hour flight. Let me download some episodes. And I literally fell in love with the show when I watched it. Like I can't remember the last time I saw a show, like maybe since Parks and Rec. You know how like every now and then like Leslie Knope would just make you feel so good that like you're just like, oh wow, I just feel good I feel better after watching this. And Ted Lasso, like Jason Sudeikis has this optimism throughout the series that's so contagious that like you can't help but just to feel better. And it just like it transcends the screen, like his performance. So I really have been highly recommending it. And obviously it's October and Halloween's around the corner. So I just want to highly encourage everyone to go back and watch some horror shows and horror movies, but the one I'm particularly going to recommend is And Then There Was Shawn. I know we're not there yet, but it's Halloween week, and like why not just like jump ahead an episode and just watch it for the sake of it, because damn if it's not perfection. And that's just one of my favorite Halloween, like no matter where I am in the podcast, I watch that episode every year. That has to be. It's like Charlie Brown's Christmas episode. It's like it's every year.
Absolutely. So I'm going to, for my homework, a show that actually kind of reflects what this episode was about, and also the Halloween aspect. You season 3, the Netflix show You season 3. It's great. It's so good. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've talked about You before, but like it's just such a really fun show. It's like I think what's interesting to me is it also like it analyzes where I feel millennials are in their lives as with each season, because what's funny to me is like it started off in New York where like, you know, like you're young and you're dating and all this other stuff, and then in season 2 he meets a girl, he starts to settle down. It's like, oh, what's that like? Now in season 3, he's a little bit older, and it's like he's living the suburban lifestyle. So again, it's like, it's as crazy as it is, it's also taking you through this journey of like hitting those different stages in life, and like how like the internal monologue you have as a millennial of being like, how did I end up here?
Yes.
So yeah, really enjoy that. And then also, I don't know, we haven't talked about it yet. At this point in time, it would have been everywhere, but Squid Games. Have you watched Squid Games?
I have not, and I know I've been outside the conversation.
I feel like it's you.
100%, dude. Planning a wedding and then being away, like it was like a month of just intense wedding planning, and then 2 weeks in Hawaii, and then I'm back here for Halloween. Like I haven't had time to get into it, but it's on my queue, and I can't wait to watch it. It's everyone keeps talking about it, and I'm so intrigued by what the show is. I have no understanding of it. Please, no spoilers, but I can't wait to jump in. I can't wait.
We'll talk about it at a different time. Okay, so as we start to wrap up, let me go back to our little thing. So sorry. Thank you guys so much for listening to Bromance World. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, all the places where you have a podcast. We are doing our lives when we do the recording on TikTok. So find us at Bromance World. We'll try to put some more content out there. As always, you can find us on other social platforms at Bromance World. And please reach out to us. Sorry, it's like reach out to us. Let us know what you guys think about this episode, future episodes. I really enjoying the chat conversations. A lot of really insightful things. And you can find me on TikTok at I Am Not Your Oreo. Tonathy, what's going on with you, Mr. Cory?
You can find me here. I gave up social media during the pandemic. I'm not.
Did you?
It's not really like a firm give up, but it just kind of happened over time where I was just like, I don't think people care what I'm eating. Like you know what I mean? Like I just kind of got to a point where I just didn't feel like I had anything to say, but I was also living a life that there wasn't much happening, and now I'm having like a lot of really exciting things happening. Like I have a ton of like things I'm excited about right now in life. So who knows? Maybe I'll start posting again, but I just haven't really. I got out of the habit of it, and now I'm struggling to get back in. I think
that's good. I think that's great.
Oh, it's actually, I love it. The only thing that sucks is that there truly is this disconnection that happens when you live far away from your friends and family when you don't post online. So that's kind of the one thing where I'm kind of feeling like I really want to get back into it for that reason. But for just like anonymous followers, I don't really care so much about that anymore. Except for our fans who listen to Bromance World, obviously.
That's right. We're gonna save that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's an absolutely great time. I guess it's time to remember to dream,
to try,
and do good.
Do some damn good, y'all.
Later, bros.
Do better than Cory.
Do better than Cory. That's not hard.
Later, guys.
It's not hard.
Not hard at all.
When this boy meets world.